20th century was a transformative period for LGBT rights and visibility. From the shadows of persecution to the dawn of equality, the journey of LGBT individuals and communities shaped modern society in profound ways. The early 1900s saw LGBT people living largely in secrecy. Many major cities had underground communities, but discrimination and criminalization of same-sex relationships forced most to hide their true identities. The 1920s brought a brief period of relative openness in some urban areas. Berlin became known for its thriving LGBT subculture, with numerous gay and lesbian bars and clubs. This era of tolerance, however, was short-lived. The rise of fascism in Europe in the 1930s led to increased persecution of LGBT individuals. In Nazi Germany, thousands of gay men were sent to concentration camps, marked with pink triangles, a symbol later reclaimed by the LGBT rights movement. World War II had a significant impact on LGBT history. The war effort brought many people to cities, creating new opportunities for LGBT individuals to meet and form communities. Women entering the workforce also challenged traditional gender roles. The post-war period saw increased government persecution of LGBT people in many countries. In the U.S., the Lavender Scare led to purges of suspected gay and lesbian employees from government positions. The 1950s witnessed the formation of the first major LGBT rights organizations. The Mattachine Society, founded in 1950, and the Daughters of Bilitis, established in 1955, began advocating for gay and lesbian rights. Scientific research in the mid-20th century started to challenge prevailing notions about homosexuality. Alfred Kinsey's groundbreaking studies on human sexuality in the late 1940s and early 1950s suggested that same-sex attraction was more common than previously thought. The 1960s brought significant cultural changes that impacted LGBT communities. The sexual revolution and counterculture movements created more space for questioning traditional norms around gender and sexuality. The Stonewall Riots of 1969 marked a turning point in LGBT history. The spontaneous demonstrations against a police raid on the Stonewall Inn in New York City are often considered the birth of the modern LGBT rights movement. The 1970s saw an explosion of LGBT activism and visibility. The first Pride marches were held, and many LGBT organizations were formed to fight for equal rights and recognition. Gay liberation movements gained momentum in the 1970s, challenging societal norms and advocating for radical change. This era saw the emergence of influential LGBT theorists and activists who shaped the movement's ideology. The rise of disco music in the 1970s provided a cultural touchstone for many in the LGBT community. Clubs became important spaces for expression and community building. The 1980s brought new challenges with the onset of the AIDS crisis. The epidemic devastated LGBT communities and brought issues of healthcare access and discrimination to the forefront. AIDS activism in the 1980s and 1990s, led by groups like ACT UP, forced society to confront the realities of the epidemic and pushed for better research, treatment, and prevention efforts. The late 20th century saw increasing representation of LGBT characters in media and popular culture. While often stereotypical, this visibility helped to normalize LGBT identities for many Americans. Political organizing in the LGBT community grew more sophisticated in the 1990s. Organizations like the Human Rights Campaign began to wield significant influence in electoral politics. The Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, implemented in 1993, allowed gay and lesbian individuals to serve in the U.S. military if they did not disclose their sexual orientation. While seen as a compromise at the time, it remained a contentious issue. The concept of queer was reclaimed by many in the LGBT community during the 1990s, becoming both a personal identity and an academic discipline questioning traditional categories of gender and sexuality. Transgender rights began to gain more attention within the broader LGBT movement in the late 20th century. Activists worked to increase understanding and acceptance of gender diversity. The rise of the internet in the 1990s revolutionized how LGBT individuals could connect with each other, access information, and form communities, particularly important for those in isolated or rural areas. Same-sex partnership recognition began to gain traction in the late 20th century. Denmark became the first country to legally recognize same-sex partnerships in 1989, setting a precedent for other nations. LGBT youth issues gained more attention in the 1990s. The formation of gay-straight alliances in schools and increased awareness of LGBT youth homelessness highlighted the unique challenges faced by young people. The lipstick lesbian phenomenon of the 1990s challenged stereotypes about lesbian appearance and identity, while also raising questions about visibility and assimilation. The emergence of LGBT studies as an academic field in the 1990s led to increased research and scholarship on LGBT history, culture, and social issues. Bisexuality became more visible as a distinct identity within the LGBT community in the late 20th century, challenging binary notions of sexuality. The concept of intersectionality gained importance in LGBT activism, recognizing the complex interplay of sexual orientation, gender identity, race, class, and other factors in shaping individuals' experiences. LGBT sports organizations and events, such as the Gay Games, grew in popularity, challenging homophobia in athletics and providing spaces for LGBT athletes to compete openly. The AIDS Memorial Quilt, first displayed in 1987, became a powerful symbol of remembrance and activism, growing to become the largest piece of community folk art in the world. LGBT literature flourished in the late 20th century, with authors like Armistead Maupin, Leslie Feinberg, and Audre Lorde providing diverse representations of LGBT experiences. The rise of LGBT tourism in the 1990s led to the development of gay-friendly destinations and a growing recognition of the economic power of the LGBT community. Debates over same-sex marriage began to intensify in the 1990s, setting the stage for legal battles and cultural conflicts that would continue into the 21st century. LGBT religious organizations and affirming faith communities grew in the late 20th century, challenging traditional religious opposition to LGBT identities and relationships. The concept of chosen family became increasingly important in LGBT communities, recognizing the strong bonds formed outside of traditional family structures. LGBT health issues beyond HIV/AIDS gained more attention in the medical community, leading to increased research on the specific health needs of LGBT individuals. The emergence of LGBT film festivals, such as Outfest in Los Angeles and Frameline in San Francisco, provided platforms for queer cinema and helped develop LGBT film culture. Drag culture, long a part of LGBT subcultures, gained wider recognition in the 1990s through events like Wigstock and the increasing popularity of drag performances. The repeal of sodomy laws in many countries marked significant legal progress. In the U.S., the Supreme Court case Lawrence v. Texas in 2003 struck down remaining sodomy laws, building on activism from previous decades. LGBT elders became more visible in the late 20th century, raising awareness about the unique challenges faced by older LGBT individuals and leading to the development of LGBT-focused senior services. The emergence of LGBT parent groups and increasing acceptance of same-sex parenting challenged traditional notions of family and paved the way for future legal recognition. As the 20th century drew to a close, the LGBT rights movement had made significant strides. From the dark days of criminalization and social ostracism to increasing acceptance and legal protections, the journey was marked by courage, resilience, and relentless advocacy. The gains made during this period laid the groundwork for continued progress in the 21st century. The story of LGBT people in the 20th century is one of transformation, both of individuals coming to terms with their identities and of a society grappling with changing notions of gender and sexuality. As we reflect on this history, we see a testament to the power of community, the importance of visibility, and the ongoing struggle for equality and acceptance. The legacy of 20th century LGBT activism continues to shape our understanding of identity, love, and human rights in the modern world.